I'm so excited to film this video because I get to talk about all the things I really deeply love. Hey guys, it's Julia. I'm in my dorm, as you can probably tell. I've been at college for the past week or so, but before I left for college, I pre-filmed about 4 videos, so I would have enough videos to tide me over until the next time I visited home. And this was one of those videos. What I didn't realize was that after I filmed this clip, I must have hit a button or something, or my camera did something, but basically the entire rest of the video is just slightly out of focus. My face is just slightly out of focus, but the products are in focus. So if that's truly going to bother you, feel free to click off now and not watch. I don't mind. I was really not sure what to do about this video. I was thinking I was going to trash it, but I was still really proud of all the things I said and all the reviews I delivered in the video, and it's still a Julia piece of content. It's just slightly out of focus. So if it's truly going to bother you, feel free to not watch. I really won't mind. I swear, just wait for the next video. But for those of you who do still want to watch, thank you. I appreciate you guys letting me make mistakes. This was one. And yeah, sorry about it, but I hope you do enjoy the video, or what you can see of the video.
Oh hi, thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
Hey guys, it's Julia. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I believe the last video I posted should have been a look back at my old favorites, in which I looked at an old favorites video and just kind of shared with you guys where those favorites are now, if I still love them, if I've replaced them with other things. And after the video, it only felt appropriate to just do an updated version of the Ride or Die favorites, basically sharing with you guys my favorite product from every single category. Favorite foundation, favorite eyeshadow palette, the #1 best thing in my collection in each category. So as straightforward as that sounds, 'twas not easy to pick. It was pretty much just Anastasia Beverly Hills duking it out with every other brand, but I was able to narrow it down to my #1, or in the eyeshadow palette case, #3 favorite things in my collection, and I just wanted to share with you guys the updated version of my Ride or Dies. I think I want to try and do this video at least once a year, just so you can get a more current picture of what I'm really loving in my collection at each snapshot of time. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I tried to use most of the products I'm talking about in this video on my face today, so as I'm talking about the Ride or Dies, I also did a full face-ish of the Ride or Dies, so you can see everything.
Hi!
Pick up the limited edition Flower Child merch if you're so inclined. Thank you to everybody who's supported so far. And without further ado, my favorites. Alright, so in previous Ride or Die videos, I've just jumped straight into primer because I was a fiend who didn't wear sunscreen on my face. I've gotten a lot better about wearing sunscreen every single day. I want to start off this video on a good note, and instead of jumping straight into primer, I want to share my kind of first primer. As of now, my daily wear has been from La Roche-Posay. This is the Anthelios XL. It's SPF 50. The French take their skincare very seriously. This is a cult favorite sunscreen, especially for wearing under makeup. It's a very light formulation, almost like a serum, but it does have a little bit of occlusiveness, so it gives you a little bit of moisturizer as well. And this is just lovely. It's never affected the way that my makeup is worn. It's always kept my skin protected, and it's just a really good base, especially if you do wear a full face of makeup like I do. My current favorite sunscreen, definitely a Ride or Die that I don't really see being unseated anytime soon. I keep dropping products. My current favorite primer was a little bit difficult to pick out because I do use different primers on different days depending on what I'm going for, but my #1 favorite that pretty much works with everything is my Tarte Silk Canvas. This is just my go-to, especially when I'm trying out a new foundation. It's the thing I always use as my base before I test out a new foundation because I know this works with almost everything I own. So if something looks bad on top of this, I know it's probably not a good formula for my skin. Clearly I've used a ton of it. A little goes a very long way. You pretty much just need even less than a pea-sized amount. I actually find that using too much can make my skin look a little bit greasier throughout the day for some reason. It just kind of makes everything slip around, so I pretty much just use it on my cheeks, on my T-zone, just to smooth everything out, and it creates this very nice, silky, very refined base that makes everything just blend really nicely on top of it. And I normally don't like more pore-filling primers, but this is one of the few that I think actually does something that looks special on my skin and actually creates lasting results. Guess what foundation? Guess what foundation? Guess. Guess what foundation? We've been new. I'm in a deeply committed relationship with the Anastasia Beverly Hills Luminous Foundation. Not only is it one of the most immaculate shade matches I've ever found for my complexion, 210N is my perfect shade. I'm wearing it today. I think the formula just slaps. It's the perfect amount of dewy, and believe it or not, yes, I do think there is such thing as too much dew. Beautiful, luminous, silky finish to it. It's also a very thin and light formula, so even though it does have a nice amount of medium to full coverage that you can build up, I think it's able to just sit really well on the skin without looking like you're wearing a ton of foundation, and also not feeling like you're wearing a ton of foundation, which is a huge thing for me, especially during summer. For a glowy foundation, I think this one personally just wears the best I've ever seen. I've gotten a lot of questions about how I, the dewy queen, keep my foundations from transferring. I don't. So yeah, I've accepted it as my burden to carry, that my white shirts will perpetually have a nice ring of beige around them. It is what it is. At least I look glowy. For concealer, I'm sure you know what's coming. Actually, for most of these, I'm pretty sure you know what's coming because I talk about my favorites so often that it's probably yeah, okay, we've been new. But my Ride or Die concealer is the Too Faced Born This Way multi-use sculpting concealer. Again, Almond from Too Faced and the Anastasia 210 are the best shade matches I've ever found for me. This is like the Chanel to Tarte Shape Tape's Walmart. I do like Tarte Shape Tape a lot, but this is pretty much everything I wanted Tarte Shape Tape to be. Both are very nice full coverage concealers. Both have a huge amount of product in their tubes. They have these really big doe-footed applicators, so it's just very easy to swipe it on. You get a really good amount of product with each application. But the Born This Way concealer I feel like doesn't dry down super quickly, so you can kind of take your time to blend it out. I feel like it's a lot easier to blend out. It's a little bit more of a thin texture, so it doesn't look super apparent on the under eyes. And that's kind of what I appreciate about this one, is that I can wear it both on a very full beat day like this or on a more like light coverage day, because it blends so easily that it doesn't look like I have this obvious like huge patch of coverage if I do blend it out on top of a lighter coverage base. Also, if you've been hung up on trying this one out because you don't like the Too Faced Born This Way foundation, I think this is a lot more of a universal formula. It'll work for pretty much any skin type, whereas the Born This Way I think is definitely best for drier skin types. So yeah, favorite concealer, God tier, love it with my whole heart. As I've said, I don't really wear like a full face of translucent powder anymore. I really only use powder to set my under eyes because that's kind of a non-negotiable for me, and then mostly just to kind of blur out the finish on my forehead and my nose and a little bit on my chin as well. So I pretty much leave most of my cheeks unset, but still allows any like dewy or foundation finish to show through the powder. Truly one of the most special formulas I've ever found of powder is the Hourglass Translucent Veil Setting Powder. This is such a beautiful texture. It does its job perfectly, which is setting down everything and making sure it doesn't move throughout the day, but it also has this beautiful property where it doesn't take down the shine and completely flatten the finish of your face. It allows for dimension, but only in the most beautiful way possible. I actually really love the packaging. I think it's a really great way of creating a nice mess-free powder, or almost as mess-free as it can possibly be. Sometimes I feel like Hourglass's packaging is a little bit like chintzy and not super luxurious feeling, especially for the price tag, but this definitely feels like you're getting a little bit more money's worth out of how much you spent. It's just stunning, such a unique formula. I do still use Laura Mercier, which is my old favorite that I think is super mattifying, but it does mattify my face down a lot more than I want, so on a daily basis when I'm going for the finish I want, I'll use this one because I think it just does everything perfectly. I'm kind of convinced that Charlotte Tilbury is Britain's way of buying back America slowly with every purchase.
Fuck you, says America, declaring their independence and fighting for it. And France helps them win. Now France is broke.
But a product that I was basically forced into trying out by Samantha Robindahl is the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Contour Wand. And this initially I thought I hated it. So I am wearing it on my cheekbones today. Obviously, pretty much everything I'm wearing on my face right now. I'm also wearing it on my nose. It's a bit more of like a liquidy cream contours. It's a more like watery concealer texture that you just swipe on and then blend out. Initially I thought I hated this one because it's a little bit more warm tone than I'm used to going for my contours, but I've honestly grown to love this one. I think it's just this beautiful natural looking shadow where it's not too ashy on the skin, but it's also not like wearing a bronzer in the depths of your cheekbones. Plus I think the formula is super easy to blend, so if you are kind of a more beginner to contour, or if you just want a more natural looking effect rather than like a I think you'll really like this one. Bronzer, this was kind of a sneak attack favorite. I bought this not thinking it was going to be bad by any means, but I didn't think it was going to become my favorite bronzer in my collection. But Cover FX I think kills it on their base products, particularly their foundations. And they're one of the few brands I feel like still doesn't release like a crazy amount of things a year. Whenever they do release new products, it's always well thought out and just well conceptualized, and I respect that so hard. Colourpop. So they dropped the monochromatic duos earlier this year. They had a lot of blush shades and then 2 bronzer shades. So I picked up a blush as well, but the Sunkissed Bronze Duo. And I'm not somebody who generally loves glowy bronzers, but this one I make an exception for. I love using them together, this one as my base bronzer and then this one as a little bit of a topper, just to bring a little bit more like life and dimension to the cheeks. The reason this is my favorite is because even though it is a bit more on the pigmented side, I feel like this is one of the easiest bronzers to blend. I personally do go a little bit overzealous with my cheek products sometimes, especially bronzer and blush. I can tend to apply a little bit too much, and this one, even if I do go in with a little bit too much on my brush, I can always manage to blend it out and make it look nice again. I'm wearing the matte bronzer today, and then this kind of glowy bronzer topper. I pretty much sweep this all the way from here down into the area where I wear my highlight. To be honest, I think this is one of the like most standout releases of the year for me, but it's definitely my new favorite bronzer. Alright, and then for blush, it was kind of hard for me to pick. At first I was thinking I was going to say the Marc Jacobs Flesh and Fantasy blush, so I put this one on when I was doing my face today. But I was looking through my collection and I realized, you know what? I think Essence Satin Touch blush is just a little bit better, in my opinion, and a whole lot less expensive. I've used it so much that the top has fallen off. I can still like store it fine, but This is the shade 20 Satin Love. They do have a satin coral shade as well that's a little bit more on the peachy side. Personally, I just love basic pink tone blushes. I don't know what it is. It feels like literal butter. Blends so ridiculously easily. I would love to see them do like a bronzer in this formula because it truly is satiny. It doesn't have like a dewy or like shimmery finish to it. So it is matte technically, but it doesn't have a completely flat finish to the face either. But this is one of my favorite things in my collection. So it was a really close call between these two blushes. I think Flesh and Fantasy is also a stunning blush, especially if you like more neutral colored shades. But the Satin Touch blush is something I reach for whenever I just want things to work really well. For brows, I feel like most people are either in the Anastasia camp or the Benefit camp. I've always just been tried and true for Anastasia, but I have varied with what I use from the Anastasia line. I used to ride so hard for the Brow Wiz. I honestly wish I could like afford to just use Brow Wiz every single day because it is the best brow pencil I've ever tried. But brow pencils in general, I feel like are just super wasteful. So I've kind of just converted myself out of necessity and also just like environmental concern and not wanting to spend $21 a month to just using pomade instead. So I use the Anastasia Beverly Hills Dip Brow Pomade. I think it's so easy to create that nice gradient faded brow, and I've had this pomade for almost pushing on 2 years now. So this is one of those products that you need such a small amount. You're not going to go through a ton of it, and I just don't like repurchasing brow products. I think it's a lot less wasteful to use a pomade instead of a pencil. So I'm a dip brow girl, and then in terms of using like a brow gel, I used to use a clear brow gel, but now I pretty much just use soap every day. Whatever's lying around, usually just Dial. So yeah, that's my brow favorites. All right, moving into eyes. Eye primer. It does to a certain degree depend on the day or the eye look I'm doing. So if I'm doing a very no makeup look where I'm pretty much just using one shadow, I probably won't use the Anastasia Beverly Hills eye primer because it is a more thick full coverage base. It blocks out like all the veins and the redness and creates a really nice base for making nice intricate eyeshadow looks like this one. So if I'm doing like a more basic eye look where I'm not really needing a super intense eye base to help everything pop, I'll probably just use either concealer or Urban Decay Primer Potion. For like the eye looks I post on Instagram, I always use the Anastasia eye primer. It does have really shitty packaging, so personally what I did was I squirted like almost half the tube into a little like pot where I used to keep like an eye cream. And it actually doesn't dry out in pop form, so you can definitely do that and it won't dry out while it's in there. But after you get through like the first like I'd say third of the primer, it starts working a lot better. Yeah, it's really beautiful. I feel like it really does help a lot with the pigmentation of my eyeshadows, and it's one of the few thicker eye bases where it doesn't crease immediately while I'm doing my eye look. So for example with the P. Louise eye base, I would notice it like if I didn't go ahead and go in with a shadow for my crease immediately after blending out the eye base, it would crease up in my lid and I have to blend it out again. So this one does not do that for me. I think it dries down a lot better and just looks a lot nicer on the eyes. So packaging aside, really like this one. For eyeshadow palettes, I picked 3. I think it's unfair to make me pick one, so I didn't. Okay. But they're all palettes you've probably seen in my recent palette videos because they're just the holy grails that I reach for very often. So I wasn't sure which one I wanted to use for today's eye look. I was thinking like, hey, maybe do all 3, but eventually I just did the Anastasia Soft Glam. A banger. This palette, as brown as it is, never fails to inspire me. I've created some of my favorite eye looks with this one. And again, it's one of those few palettes in my collection where I use every single shade inside of it. There's no shades that go unused or like underloved in the palette because I think everything was put in here to have a specific function and not just as a filler shade. I was having a hard time picking between this and Mono Renaissance to put in here, but I ultimately decided on Soft Glam because I think it's going to work for a lot more people. And for me, it just serves a more prominent position in my collection. Then I had to go with the Dose of Colors Desi Katy Friendcation palette because this has my favorite shimmer formula of all time. The foiled Block Party shades in here are the most unique, beautiful formula of shimmer I've ever tried in my life. So normally when I see like a chunky foiled glittery shade like this, I generally assume that it's going to like create a lot of fallout on my under eyes. These are the most fallout proof, beautifully glittery shimmer shades ever. They just have this really interesting and unique dimension to them. So these, when they catch light, whether it's sunlight or any other lighting, they just look like nothing I've ever seen before. Shimmer formula is really good. The matte formula is also really great. And in terms of the color selection, I just think there's a lot of different things you can do with this one. And then I had to mention Melt Gemini because it's my baby. Like, I'm honestly mad that I'm not the person who created this palette because it's perfect. I think Melt's formula is one of the more special ones in my collection, especially the mattes. They're super rich, very creamy, very thick textured formula. And this palette in particular is one of the only olive green palettes where the olive greens don't turn kind of like brown toned on the eyes. I get a lot of questions whether I prefer the Smoke Sessions or the Gemini because of the neutrals in here and because there's a lot more mattes, and I think Melt's matte formula in particular is so special. For eyeliner, I don't really wear winged eyeliner on camera very often, but I do wear it a lot in my daily life. Lottie London came out with these stamp liners, so if you're familiar with Milk Makeup, these are like a dupe of those. A little stamp in different shapes, and you're able to just kind of like stamp on a little heart every now and then if you want to. But I do think these are better than the Milk ones because on the other side, you get a liner, and the liner on the other side, like, so good. At first I thought I was not gonna like this one because it does seem to be a little bit like on the fatter side. That's just kind of the base diameter. The tip is actually very, very fine. So you can create a very thickums wing if you want to, but you can also do a nice soft like baby cat eye, like a kitten eye. Also, I think the finish is really nice. I don't like a very like shiny vinyl black liner, but I don't really like matte liners most of the time because they do flake a little bit more. So this one is just perfect in between. It's like kind of a velvety finish where it's not completely mattified down. So this was kind of like a sneak attack favorite. I didn't really think I was gonna like the liner on the other side. I thought I was mostly just gonna be using it for the stamp, but now the stamp is kind of an afterthought for me. I'd rather just use the liner. All right, for mascara, Abby Williamson has single-handedly gotten me back into using the Essence Lash Princess, so I'm officially back on my bullshit. And honestly, like, I don't know why I keep going back to buying high-end mascaras because this exists. It's like $5. This is my second or third tube. I do like the Sculpted Volume one, the purple one. They do have a few different ones with different wand shapes, but the formula is all the same. I like me a more curved, kind of like fluffier one, so this is my personal favorite. It's voluminous, very nice and black. It doesn't flake on me, which is the most important thing. I hate when I see like black smudging around here or even black flakes. Drugstore mascaras in general, I think, are the smarter option 99% of the time. Why would I ever buy high-end mascara ever again? I don't know, but I keep buying Kush mascara, so. Now for lash glue, I've never found a lash glue that's just perfect for me because they've always inevitably had kind of something wrong. So my favorite lash glue isn't necessarily the perfect lash glue in that it's all the requirements for everything I want out of my lash glue, but it is the best one that I have. So that is the Duo Strip Lash Adhesive. I used a black one just because I like concealing my band a little bit better. I love this one because it's very, very heavy duty. It doesn't like leave clumps behind in my lashes that are hard to pick out. That was my problem with the House of Lashes lash glue. The only reason this isn't really perfect for me is I do prefer a brush-on lash adhesive, and I know that Duo does have the brush-on version of this, but it's just not the same. Like, it doesn't do the same thing for me. So I've just been using the squeezy tube. I think this is great, very affordable. I'm still hunting for my like perfect lash glue, but this is the best I've gotten so far. Favorite lashes is kind of like a trap of a category because I don't have one specific favorite pair of lashes that's good for everything, but probably my like favorite pair of lashes that I love wearing for special occasions that are just always my go-tos for a bunch of different types of eye looks would be the pure Bombshell lashes. So obviously I'm not wearing them right now because they're in the box. This pair is on its like last legs. I try to get like 30 wears out of my lashes because I'm a crackhead. I do take really good care of my lashes, but these ones, like, they're on their way out, man. So these were my prom lashes, my graduation lashes. So I suppose if I had to pick a favorite, I would say these ones, but yeah, again, it depends on what I'm going for. Okay, the highlighter category always makes me sad because we know what it's gonna be, and we know I'm gonna go on my same tirade about how Anastasia should bring back the Anastasia Beverly Hills Amrezy Highlighter. Because, like, I don't want more glow kits. I just want these. It's, again, one of those things that just looks good with everything. It's a Big Chalet formula, completely fallout proof, and it looks the way cream highlighter looks on my skin without being cream highlighter. It melts into the face. It doesn't look like a stripe of metallicness. It just looks like you naturally have beaming perfect highlight that you didn't even have to like work to blend out into your skin. Lips was difficult to select for because like how are you supposed to select your number one favorite lip thing? So I pretty much just picked if I could only wear like these lipsticks for the rest of my life, what would I choose? So for nudes, my favorite is the I Love Sadahi and ColourPop Ultra Satin Lip in the shade 951. I really hope they do not discontinue this one because ColourPop is on their like fierce train of releasing a ton of new things and also discontinuing the best product in their line, which is such a stupid business model, honestly. Then if I want a nude but kind of glossier lip, I'm wearing the Fenty Beauty Gloss Bomb in the shade Fenty Glow, or pretty much any Fenty Gloss Bomb, honestly, but Fenty Glow in particular is what I'm wearing on my lips right now. I love this formula, the most comfortable gloss I own, and this particular shade works with everything, so when I just don't know what lip to use, 99% of the time this works. If I want something more on the pinky tone side, ColourPop Ultra Blotted Lip in the shade Zuma. It's more of like a no makeup day look. Again, it's just one of those no-brainer colors, and if they discontinue it, I'm enacting a boycott. And then finally, my holy grail, powerful bitch red, is the Fenty Beauty Stunna Lip Paint in the shade Uncensored. I don't wear red lips very often, but when I do, I feel like I'm on top of the world and like I'm going to single-handedly get my medical degree in 1 year, when in fact it's gonna take like 8 more. And this is just the perfect red. It's not too orange, but it's also not too like cool toned either. I don't like very, very blue toned reds, and I'm also allergic to a lot of red lipsticks, and this one has and this one is just the best for me. So for setting spray, it's not really a setting spray, but it is my favorite mist to use after I put on all my makeup, and that is the Farsali Rose Gold Skin Mist. So I'm just gonna blame Gina Scheller for this one because, oh, the way she described this one was that it was going to be the dewy mist of my dreams. And yes, it does not prolong the wear of my makeup by any means, but it does just bring the life back into my skin, especially if I went a little bit too hard with the powders or if I went too hard with the highlighter. I know it is a very unnecessarily bougie purchase. I think there are definitely a lot of other skin mists that can do almost the exact same thing, but I like this one a lot, so yeah. And then my favorite perfume has actually not changed in the past year. It's the KKW Beauty Gardenia perfume. This is my second bottle. I like strong scents. My biggest pet peeve is when I put on perfume and then by the end of the day, it's gone. I can't smell it anymore. But stronger scents tend to give me really, really, really bad headaches, so I can't really wear them. This is one of the only strong scents I've ever had that stays on my skin all day long, and I can always smell it, but it doesn't give me a headache when I first apply it, so that's awesome. So if you ever wonder what I smell like in person, it's Crystal Gardenia, Pure Stress, peanut butter most of the time. Alright guys, that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed my little updated ride or die favorites. And I'm sure if you're a somewhat avid watcher, most of these were not a surprise to you, but still, I like it was necessary and I like doing these lots. So hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you are subscribed down below, and also follow me on Instagram to see makeup looks like this posted as my brain concurrently fries throughout the semester. And if you made it to the very end of this video, you stunning gloss bombs. You get the ones I mean. Love you. Bye.